Hi friends, as you can tell by the title of today's video, we are doing a bookshelf tour. It's been quite a while since I've done one of these, and my shelves have changed just a little bit over the past, I think it was like 2 years ago or so. I have gotten rid of a lot of books. I've acquired some new special editions, so I thought a bookshelf tour was in order. A couple of things about my shelves: they're organized in rainbow. Personally, I think it looks best with my shelves, with my collection, with my actual shelves. Speaking of the shelves, I got them from Amazon. I believe they come in sets of 2. They're fairly inexpensive, and they're pretty good shelves. They've held up over, I think I got them maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and they've held up fairly well. They're not in the wall. And then all of the decor and everything are things that I have gotten over time. Don't really remember where from. If I remember, I'll point it out. And then other than that, I have these 3 shelves right here are all of my regular novels, and I have some nonfiction interspersed in, and then my manga shelf is right there. So I think that's enough introduction. Let's just get right into it. So starting with this topmost shelf, I'm not going to point out every single book, just kind of like notable favorites, things like that. We have Will You Be Mine and Birthday Shot by Rilsey Adams. I discovered Rilsey back in 2020, I think, and I have loved pretty much every single one of her stories. Will You Be Mine is still one of my all-time favorites. I would say Go Deep is my favorite, but Will You Be Mine is like probably my second. Really love her. She does a fantastic job of writing novellas with really strong emotions and like really believable characters. Fairy Loot edition of Book of Night. Not my favorite. Didn't love it, but I really love this edition, and I think it looks good on a black shelf. I'm a huge fan of the Cruel Prince series, the Folk of the Air trilogy, and also the new one that's set in the same world, but I wasn't the biggest fan of this. And then, of course, we have some favorites. We have The City of Brass, which is the first book in the Davabad trilogy. We have the Six of Crows duology, and then one of my favorite horrors of all time, which is Tender is the Flesh. This is a dystopian cannibalism story. It's very interesting. So moving on to the next shelf, we have these dust jackets on the Twilight hardcovers. I'll link the dust jacket shop down below. I can't remember exactly the name of them, but I really like the picture that it creates. The dust jackets are a little beat up with how many times I've moved around my books, but I really love the way that it looks. We then have my Cassandra Clare series. Then we go into Kingdom of Ash. We have an unread book, Shuggy Bane by Douglas Stewart. That should technically be on my unread shelf, but anyways. And then we have also a really good thriller, The Turn of the Key, by Ruth Ware. One of really the only Ruth Wares I've enjoyed. And then we have this little bunny that I actually got that's supposed to be a cat toy, and the cats hated it, so I just decided to use it as a shelf decoration. So then we go down to probably my favorite shelf on like all my shelves, and that is the pink shelf. There's something so healing and amazing about the color pink. I love when people have pink shelves, they just look so good. Definitely some notable favorites on this shelf is The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. This is another Fairy Loot, I believe. I think it's the Fairy Loot adult box. This is a great fantasy romance. The heroine is an undertaker, and the hero deals with like magical creatures. He's like a park ranger, basically, and I absolutely adored it. Of course, we then have some Lisa Kleypas, which I love. We have this special dust jacket of A Court of Thorns and Roses. I will leave these linked down below as well. I have them for the first 3 books. We have a special edition from the Hello Lovely box of Waking Olivia. Didn't love it, but I really enjoy that cover. And then we have the dust jacket for A Fragile Enchantment, because I do have the Fragile Enchantment displayed right here, but I like having the pink there. So then we get down to the last shelf in this bookshelf that actually has books on it. The bottom 2 don't, because like I said, I have my chair there. So we have the cover of Chain of Thorns showing out. I absolutely love this cover. I love the cover of all of the Last Hours trilogies. I don't have all of them facing out, but I do love them. And then we have some romances and some Robin Hobb. I'm really hoping to expand that collection, because I'm very excited to get in to her universe for sure. I have read The Assassin's Apprentice. I have not read the Rain Wilds Chronicles because they are towards the end of her, like, universe, and I want to read them in the order that I should. It is predominantly my Sophie Lark shelf, so my Brittle Birthright, the Kingmakers, and the There Are No Saints. I think it's the Saint and Devil duology. We have Her Soul to Take, which is a notable favorite. We have The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, which is a notable favorite. And then we have this Howl's Moving Castle candle holder. Then we have the start of the white shelves, and for decor I have this calendar card that I got in, I believe, a Fairy Loot box. I think this is Dorian from Throne of Glass. I could be incorrect. I'm terrible with character art. An absolute notable favorite, as you can tell by the amount of tabs throughout this book, and that is A Little Life. This is a very divisive book. Lots of people have problems with it, and it seems to be a book you either love or you hate, and as you can tell, I had a lot of feelings about it. I don't quite know if I'll ever reread it, but I really, really, really loved it. I did like an hour-long video of it on my channel, reviewing it. And I do own, I believe, all of her other works, and I have not found a single one, aside from A Little Life, that I actually enjoyed. So then we have the, I believe these are like Amazon editions of the Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas. I don't know the state of indie published romances this time, so I don't know if this has since been published. They originally had these like ribbons on them and they were black, and then she redid these, and I love, love, love these editions. Let me show you. So then we have the same dust jacket series as of the Sarah J. Maas, the acotar series. This is probably my favorite book in the series, but also my favorite dust jacket set of the ones that I got. Some other notable favorites is The Air He Breathes. This is a deeply emotional romance dealing with grief. Love Brittany C. Cherry. Then we have My Heart is a Chainsaw, another fantastic horror book. If you're a big horror slasher fan, I really recommend Stephen Graham Jones. Recommend him in general, but specifically if you are a huge slasher fan. So onto this shelf, like I mentioned, we have A Fragile Enchantment on display. I didn't really like the story a bunch, but I adore this edition. It's gorgeous. I love, love, love the pink. Love the design. Love it. We have a special edition of A Clockwork Angel. We have a Fairy Loot edition of A Dowry of Blood. Another great, great read and a great edition. We have some historical romance right here. This is one of those false books that Fairy Loot does in their collection. I think they have several series at this point, but it just opens up and you can hide stuff in it. The first book in the Crescent City series. I love the Crescent City series. It's 100% a comfort series. I understand that it's not for a lot of people, and objectively, it's not the best, but I find a lot of comfort in it. So then moving on down to these bottom shelves. A Fairy Loot edition of The Forest Grimm. I absolutely adore this edition. I think it's so great. We have a first edition, I believe, of The Hobbit, which I actually found when my boss's mother-in-law was doing a house clean out. The first book in the Shady Hollow series, really love this. It's very sweet and cozy. It's like woodland creatures trying to solve murder mystery. And then of course we have Chain of Iron, which has that gorgeous cover. Again, Last Hours, they did so good. And a special edition of City of Bones. And then this is a framed picture thing that my stepmom gave me. It's a girl on a flower with a cat reading a book. And I just realized that I forgot to go over this shelf. So first up we have this happily ever after mushroom spoon that I think is really cute. And then we have this TBR jar that I don't use as a TBR jar that says books are a way to live 1,000 lives. And we have this mug. It's the box to the mug that came in the last Fairy Loot, but I think the box is so stinking cute. It's like this pale pink and it has a goose on it. The cup is very cute too, but I love this box, so I decided I was going to save it and put it on my shelf. Nothing super notable on this shelf. We do have the other book in the last hours, again, that has a gorgeous cover. This has a redhead on it, so we love that. We have Acts of Desperation, which is probably one of my favorite covers. Also a great book. And then some historical romance and Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, another fantastic cover and a fantastic book. This is the bottom shelf. Again, we have some more historical romance, some fantasy, we have some Brandon Sanderson, we have the last book I own in the Shady Hollow series, some contemporary romance, and I believe this is the second book in the Davabad trilogy. Love that. The trilogy is so good. Again, nothing super notable here. We do have a special edition of Disgrace by Brittany C. Cherry. Not my favorite Brittany C. Cherry story, but it's a cute little, like, small town enemies to lovers situation. We have Punk 57, which is one of my favorite romances of all time. We, of course, have Brianna Hale, who is another favorite. More historical romance. We have some Vampire Academy. We have The Bluest Eye, one of my favorite fiction novels, like classics. Oh, and we also have this cute little plush that I got at like a local anime convention. More Cassandra Clare. This is a fake book. It's like you can put cards or like it's like a photo book situation. Birthday Girl, one of probably my favorite romance of all time. It's hard to like decide between this one and Rush. We have Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. Fantastic, fantastic pirate romance. Very dark. And then of course we have more Brianna Hale, including Rush. As you can see, heavily annotated. I don't know if you can see that. Heavily annotated. Love, love, love. Probably it fights with Birthday Girl for being my favorite romance. Classics, a book about space, some historical romance, and then a new find for me that I actually got in the Illumicrate box, and that is The Principle of Moments, which is a space opera that I loved, and I'm so excited for this author to continue. Love this edition. Love the sprayed edges. They sit out on my shelf. Loved this. If you're looking to get into sci-fi and you want something fun and fast-paced, highly recommend this. So then we are on to this shelf. We have this book stamp that says Library of. We have this cute little dragon skeleton that I felt like was very fitting to go on a mostly fantasy shelf. So we have one of my favorite horror books, Mexican Gothic. Love this. Sporer, so Spore Horror, really good. We have this Barnes & Noble edition of Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales, more historical romance. We have the 5th season, which is one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. Then we have the last, like, dust jacket of the acotar series. Not my favorite book in the series, not my favorite dust jacket, but we have our little dragon beside a Storm of Swords, which is part of the Ice and Fire Game of Thrones series. Alright, so next up, we have two little Funko Pops. Don't love Funko Pops. Not my favorite. We have Freddy Krueger, obviously, and Pennywise. Love them, my boys. And we just have really more fantasies, some romance, some classics. Here is Go Deep, my favorite Rosie Adams, and then also my favorite Tessa Bailey. Love her or lose her. It's a second chance. Cried many times at this book. I've reread it many times and cried every single time I've reread it. Very good. And then we have this shelf, which honestly, there's something about this shelf that just looks so pretty. Like, I think just minus this one, this level of white is just lovely. Love it. So this is like a Triton that I got in a book box. Love it. I think it's gorgeous and it goes really well with the white. Could move it down to the orange shelf below, but I think it fits here as well. We have some fantasy. We have some nonfiction, the Journals of Sylvia Plath. We have a book about autism. We have the first book in the Addicted series. And then we have Elantris and the first 3 books in the Mistborn trilogy. Well, it's like a series. It's 2 parts of a trilogy. Does that make sense? It's 6 books. The first 3 are a trilogy in itself, and then the next 3 are its own thing, but they're all part of, like, Mistborn. Anyways. Alright, and then we have our last shelf. We have the 3rd book in the Crescent City series. Still have not read it. Very scared. We have some fantasy romance, Twilight, the 2 Erin Morgenstern books that she's put out. Both of them 4 stars. I would consider them all-time favorites, but they're not, like, perfect books. We have the first book in the Zodiac Academy. We have some letters. We have Letters to a Young Artist by Rilke. Black Sun, also fantastic. Second book was not that good, but this was one of my favorite fantasies when I read it. We have a Katie Robert. We have a recent 5-star Powerless fantasy romance. Really, really enjoyed it. Fantastic romance. Another space book. Another one of my favorite horrors of all time, Comfort Me with Apples. It's like Stepford Wives, but it's not. It's like one of those stories that you really don't know what's going on until you find out, and you really find out. Really, really good. And then we have To Paradise by Hana Yanagihara. Tried reading this. Again, I think I have all of the books that she's written and haven't really liked any of them. So that is it. That is my bookshelf. I do have my manga section if you're interested in me going through that. It's very short. I'll do it in like a manga video if you're interested. But I have some series, some like one-offs of series and stuff. Not super interesting. I don't have like quite the manga collection that I want to have. But so that is my bookshelf tour. I do have all of my unread books in a separate part of my house. I don't put them on my shelves until I've read them, except for an occasional few that are still on my shelves. If you're interested in all my unread books, I put out a video at the beginning of the year with my 2024 goals, and I talk about all my unread books in that video. So let me know down below what you think of my shelves. I would love to know if you've done a bookshelf tour, what books you own, if you have a small collection, big collection, if you read from the library, whatever. Let's talk books down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're looking for more content like this. I do book content, but mostly I do cozy vlogs. Thank you so much for watching. All of my socials are linked down below, and I will catch you guys in my next one.